Are we live? Let me double check. Connection issues. Great to see everyone. It looks like we're live. Let's go. So I can't seem to see my screen. So let me invite. Whoops, you guys shouldn't have seen that link. It's okay. Let me send that to LookIntoCrypto. I'm new to this whole live streaming thing, y'all. So if you have any tips on how to get my screen to show, that'd be great. Make sure we're live on YouTube. All right. We have 6 people watching. Awesome. Elliot Brand, good to see you. Do you guys hear echo at all? Despide tu jefe, good to see you, man. SigHex148, good to see you. Bitfinesse, hello. Sounds good to me, no echo. Awesome, awesome. Elliot, not ballistic. Ballistic Brand. Ballistic missiles. By the way, in the previous live stream, I was referring to Brand by one of his pseudonyms from the past, so excuse me. I went ahead and fixed the previous video thumbnails, description, and all that. Okay, so I can hear my voice in my headphones, and I really wish I didn't. Man, I'm such a noob. All right, so I sent the link to LookIntoCrypto. He's a smart cookie, so hope he can help out with it. Guest 1 on air. Is that you? Oops. Brand says, yeah, it happens all the time. Call me whatever. Brand, Brian, Steve. It's all the same, but it's Ballet Brown. Appreciate you. Take your time, Gerardo. No worries, friend. I hate echoes. I cannot function when that happens. Tell me about it. Well, I'm done with the echoes because I think it's because I had 2 screens open. I'm such a doof, bro. And I might have kicked off. I might have kicked LookIntoCrypto out. Whoops. Sorry, bud. No worries. No worries. Actually. How are you guys doing today? I've been doing all the talking. What's up? Happy Sunday. Thank you. Happy Sunday, you guys. Did you see those nasty, nasty wicks on HEX? Holy fuck. That was pretty cool. So you guys can see me and you can see my screen. Awesome. Hey, Echoes. Yup. You got this. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really, really do. The wicks were dope. Hell yeah. Don't forget to smash the like. That's right. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button. Comment something cool. The chat's popping. If you're on Twitch, we probably don't really have anyone on Twitch. But if you're on Twitch, hey, subscribe. Drop some, bits? I don't even know how Twitch works. Benny, what's up? You're doing great lately, Gerardo. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Markable Thoughts. I do appreciate that. Like smashed. Tiago says, Gerardo, what do you think about Pulse? Bro, there is so much to talk about. That is a very general question, mate. If you have, do you have any specific questions? Oh, I can't see you. Only a gray rectangle. Fucking fantastic. Let me fix this real quick. Oh my God, you're right. You only see gray rectangle? Why is that? That's not cool. Because on my OBS, I can see myself. I don't know why y'all can't see me. Same gray rectangle. People are getting ready to sack up. People are getting ready to sack up, sacrifice their HEX, price go up. I like the way you think, Bitfinesse. Let me try to fix my freaking video. Live scene. Starting soon. Mic, Canon, display capture. Oh, geez. I'm always hitting like on all my profiles. 11 likes are mine on every HEX video. Jesus, Benny. Freaking animal. And here I am thinking I have real fans, real people, real support, real audience. And we have 11 Bennies. We have 11 Benny validators running half of the nodes. I can see chat on the right and gray on the left with some background. Yeah, that's what I see as well here. So I'm working on it. Maybe scale down whatever you have on OBS. Maybe it's resolution. Hey, you know what? That's smart. Maybe it is. What if I do this? Nothing? Clink. Cheers, Benny. Share screen. Maybe share screen. Should I share screen? Automatically add shared screens to stream. Yes. Fuck it. Which screen? Probably screen 1. Or how about this one? How about my Streamlabs? How about that? Sure. Hey, we're getting somewhere, y'all. We're getting somewhere. Just make this a little bigger. And I hope I don't screw up, dox my stream key, and then have randos start hopping on. That would suck. Well, now y'all can see my OBS setup. Amazing. All right. Through the chat a little bit. All right. Sorry. How do you think the Pulse launch will be? We have a huge community wanting to hard into Pulse with some huge bags because we were here pre-bull market. Okay. So what I'm hearing here is you're sitting pretty. You're sitting on some nice profits. this bull market has treated many of us very nicely, and you think a lot of Hexicans specifically are ready to ape, just full on ape their bags into something like Pulse, right? Sorry, I'm just reading I'm getting so distracted. Okay, so what do I think of that specifically? How do I think the launch will be? Well, we got some info on what it's kind of going to look like, right? We're going to have the sacrifice period, 30 days or so, bonding curves. That's worked well for other sort of coin launches, but it's going to be faster, right? Instead of a 1 year launch period, it's going to be something more along the lines of like 30 days or so, so just a month. And so you're going to have kind of this steep bonding curve, I guess you could say. And coins, in theory, should get more expensive over the course of those 30 days. I believe we have a volume bonding curve as well as a time bonding curve. I think LookIntoCrypto's here, so I'm going to turn on his video real quick. On air. Hear me, mate. I'm getting half of your screen.
Interesting. Are you getting my audio?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay. That's weird. Let me try to let me see if it's let me see if I can do something in OBS here.
Oh, I think I fixed it.
Oh, there we go. Okay. I think your audio just cut out. There you go.
Oh, no
That's
way.
Much better.
I
can hear you now.
Okay. So we have this is terrible. I have one screen with my whole OBS settings. I have one screen apparently that's just for my audio, and then you have you.
Nice. Let me see if I could get a. Let me just get. Are you streaming this on YouTube?
Yeah. I'm actually live on YouTube. We have 23 people. I think 11 of those are Benny though, so we probably have like half of that.
Got it. All right. Let me make sure I get your YouTube link here.
Awesome. Alrighty, man. Good old live stream, right?
Yeah, this is adjusting for some technical difficulties right now.
Right. Adjusting for difficulty inflation here. All right, let me just read the chat while we're fixing things up. Let's see. This works kind of. Bitcoin dominance over 51%, under 49%. Okay, so we're like on the halfway mark. Great duo for today. Thank you, Modern Simplicity. What's up, Timothy? Well, you have a gray square in there as if it's a person. You know what? Let's treat the gray square with respect, okay?
It'd be kind of cool if you could post. I don't know if it's possible to do this, but if you're able to put like charts and stuff in the gray square, that would actually be pretty sick.
That actually is a great idea. How would I go about doing something like this?
That's a good question, actually. There's probably a way to do it with. You'd almost have to have like another OBS studio that takes up that screen, and then you could have OBS basically look at. There's ways you can like direct it to like a specific link or a specific chart where you can actually specifically have something through OBS through like charting. I have not tried it. That might be a kind of more of a hack at it way to get it to work, but there's probably a better way to go about it. That's just one way I know you could do it. I think if you're using OBS right now, you'd probably have to use something like XSplit and then broadcast from XSplit into that viewing screen. But there's definitely got to be a better way though.
Yeah. That sounds a little clunky to try to figure out right now while we're on stream, but I'll look into that. You said it's called X what? X
There's another one called XSplit Broadcaster.
X Split. Got it.
Yeah, I prefer to use OBS, but if you're using OBS on for that for the window that you're in right now, then you might have to use a different broadcaster into the other one. But there's all sorts of customizations you can do with Restream and OBS, so you might just be able to do like an all-in-one type thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using Restream and OBS.
Yeah.
So there should be a way. Anyways, let's just jump right into it. Welcome to the live stream. I'm happy to chat with you. I know a lot of the community loves you. I'm new to your content. I'm new to your streams. I hopped on what was it? You were chatting with Bran and a couple other the HEX streamers the other day, and I loved everything you had to say. Like, you seem super smart, knowledgeable. I think you've been in crypto longer than a lot of us. So yeah, go ahead, and if you want to give us sort of an introduction, kind of like who you are, a little bit of your story for people who don't know and who are new to your content like me. And yeah, just take the floor whenever you want.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, thanks for having me on stream. So yeah, I've been in the crypto market since 2017. So I would say probably one of the biggest differences, at least for somebody like myself versus somebody that's getting into the market now, is there's just a lot you learn in it. It takes time. Like, that's the biggest thing, is it's really just time. So going through like an entire market cycle and seeing what the bear markets look like as well as the bull markets, there's just things along the way that are very useful just to give yourself a better idea as to what macro trends will look like in future bull market cycles. So that's really the biggest thing, is like, crypto is obviously a huge opportunity. I do see it as potentially one of the biggest opportunity really of the century, financially speaking, in terms of how far somebody can get ahead in the market. So that's really the main thing. Like, people get into this market because during bull markets, it's obviously very lucrative. So the biggest thing for me was in the bear market, I just got familiar with charts. Actually, I got kind of hooked on charts. I use TradingView for almost any kind of chart I'm looking at. And then a lot of it is you start to see certain patterns. Nothing really ever plays out necessarily one-to-one, but you do get these reoccurring market expansion fractals that tend to play out every single market cycle. So you kind of start to see all these patterns across all the charts in crypto. And then you get an idea as to what's actually like feasibly possible in bull markets. And a lot of what's actually possible for most people seems impossible during the bear markets. And that's the biggest thing. Like, the market can go much higher than a lot of people expect. So the biggest thing for me is just identifying, where we could be in this entire market cycle, and then use that, just have that advantage to basically manage my risk through this whole bull market. Because I still have basically everything allocated in crypto. I think there is still ways to go before things get really overheated and tops out. But that is going to give me an edge later on towards the later stages of the bull market cycle. So I do have strategies there as far as how I'm going to go about it. And then really the biggest thing is just seeing like the impulsive waves play out on the price charts before it actually happens, so that you're ready and you're not the one that's having to chase basically the market. You basically let the market come to you at some point. And that's really the biggest thing. So yeah, I would say basically to kind of consolidate all of that, went through the bear market, and then have a good idea as to what's referred to as Elliot waves. It's called Elliot wave theory. I don't go too overly technical in the specifics of it, but I can see why it's very useful specifically in crypto because of how big the moves are. So I would say that pretty much wraps up at least how I've been going about this market. Like, I would say I like to follow both Bitcoin and Ethereum to just get an idea as to where the entire market is headed as kind of a reference point, and then kind of just do individual chart and from there from any specific coins that I'm just holding through this entire cycle.
Right on. Yeah, great summary. So it sounds like you've been in crypto, you said since 2017. And overall, you're saying that, to get experienced and knowledgeable, it's just time, really, recognizing patterns. And, you read my mind with the Elliott waves, because I don't think I've ever made a single video on Elliott waves, on HEX or anything like that, or even on, Ethereum, Bitcoin, which you're right. I'm in agreement with the fact that they move the market for the most part. They kind of decide where the rest of the market's going, if that wasn't obviously kind of obvious already. But yeah, if you want, I can share my screen, do some charting on, maybe start with, what do you want to start with? You tell me what chart, because I do want to do some Elliott wave stuff on HEX. But we could start with Bitcoin, Ethereum, or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, we could pull up, basically, we could actually pull up Bitcoin, Ethereum, HEX, and then just kind of look at what the differences are, at least on the way things are playing out on the three different price charts. And I would say, basically, because I've watched your videos are very good. The biggest thing to kind of take away, at least if you're there's really two ways I would see somebody that could go about this entire market cycle. You could basically just kind of analyze, like, here's what's likely to happen, like, over the whole macro cycle, and that's where the Elliott waves are very, very good. And then there's basically, you could have a breakdown of specifics. So there's actually more in-depth information with the type of data that you're actually showing on your videos. Because the more data that you have, the more advantage you have relative to basically everybody else in the market, or just just for anybody that's paying attention to that kind of stuff. The more data, the better. So Elliott waves are, you just get basically a top level view, and then the way basically you have the way you're setting up your videos, it gives you basically the meat that at some point leads into, like, those really big expansion waves. And those are actually very helpful for people to see, because you get you get basically a really good breakdown of how things are playing out with just more data. The more data the more data you have, the better. So
totally.
Yes, but yes, we could pretty much pull up any of the price charts. If there's any specific one you wanted to look at first, like Bitcoin, for example, or Ethereum or HEX, we could basically look at any of them, because it's going to be a little bit different depending on the price chart you're analyzing, at least for the market cycle.
Right. So I'm trying to pull up these charts on my other screen. Not sure how that's gonna work. Here, let me see. Trying to remember where. Oh, did I just go blank? That's super weird. You know what? Actually, let's do this. Let's share. Actually share. Can you guys see the charts? Probably not, right?
No.
Not yet. Display capture. Oh, buddy. Are you able to pull it up on your side at all, or no? In the meantime, let me read some comments in the meantime. Let's see. Good to see you, Elliot. I can buy HEX early again. Someone's asking. Not sure what that means. HEX Patient says, just wanted to say I enjoy your TAs. I think you do an amazing job here. It looks pretty professional. Thank you. Thank you, bro. Here, are you able to figure it out, or? Whoa. Oh, you've been muted this whole time? Uh-oh. Are you muted? I can't hear you.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Sorry if you were talking this whole time, but I couldn't hear you.
Let's see. Let me see if I could do a
screen share. Stop screen sharing. Start screen sharing. Window. Oh, I think I got it. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, that looks good. I could see it.
Here, let's go over to Bitcoin. And let's go from there. All right, awesome. Very happy about this. All right, are you is your audio on? You're not muted, right?
Yeah, my audio's awesome. My audio's should be okay now. Yeah, so for the Bitcoin price chart, if we actually flip it to the weekly time frames, it's a little bit harder to see on the monthly, and then if you basically zoom out across everything. So what's the way I look at it, at least if you start with Bitcoin, because really no cycle, like if you look basically across all the market cycles Bitcoin had, there's similarities you could see from one cycle to another. So for example, like if you look at the first really big cycle on Bitcoin where it went from basically 0 up to, I believe it's around $32 up to that very first peak. Like when I think of an impulse wave, I think of something where you have expansion followed by contraction. So it almost looks like on that price chart, there's basically 5 really, well, if you count the like the bear subcycles, you basically have like a huge impulse up to, it looks like around 30 to 80 cents on the chart. It's might be a little bit, I could be off on that. It's yeah, right around there. Yeah, so you basically have like an impulse there, pullback, impulse, pullback, and then another really big impulse like blow off top. Now, there's like general rules people have with like Elliott wave theory, but to be honest, like the rules themselves are more of a reference, and in practice, like things don't really play out like by a rule book, because markets are indeterministic. Like it's never going to play out from like an exact ideal point of view. But basically, yeah, I said the way I see it is like that first cycle had it had 5 really big waves. The 1, the 3, and the 5, the expansion, and the 2 and the 4, the corrective waves, like during the dominant trends, that being the bull market. And then it followed into a bear market where it has a big corrective wave until it reaches the bottom. So that was basically cycle 1. And then cycle 2, the 2013 bubble, from my viewpoint, it was like a 5-wave setup where at the bottom of the bear market, you basically had a 1 and 2 wave. So it went from like $1 up to $7, and then corrected down to like $4. And then you had that entire 3 wave that took it all the way up to its first peak, that was kind of referred to as the fake out, the false stop, followed by the 4 wave. And then you have the 5 wave up to the blow off top around $1,200. So like even in terms of the wave patterns, like you can see cycle 1 and cycle 2 have a different different structure to it. Like for one, the second cycle took much longer to play out, which would make sense because like as the price gets higher, it's going to take more and more energy to lift the prices up. But what's really interesting is like if you then look at the cycle that follows afterwards, the 2017 bull market basically looks like a much longer version in my mind as to what played out in cycle 1, except the moves take now much longer to play out. So the arc is much less gradual as you go through like the entire bull market cycle. So that's already what I would kind of refer to as like, it's almost like a fractal of what previously happened, but there are some like differences on the price charts. Like it just has a very similar market structure to it, where it was basically a steepening J as it went into, or a steepening curve as it went into the bull market cycle. And then what I see with the current cycle is the current cycle seems to look similar in my mind to the 2013 double cycle, where Bitcoin had its like, it already had the 1 and 2 wave, and then it's currently from my viewpoint either in the 3 wave, or it's already in, let's say, wave 4 before it enters the 5 wave. But I would say, yeah, we have basically the 1 and 2 wave, and then we're just somewhere on the price chart on the 3 wave until at some point the market tells us that it's going into like a corrective 4 wave, which we could be in Bitcoin. I'm not sure if we're necessarily in the 4 wave, but the market structure so far, based on the price chart, we're either somewhere still within the 3, or perhaps like in the early stages of the 4. So that's kind of what I'm looking at so far in terms of the market structure for Bitcoin. And as of now, it is a fractal of that 2013 double cycle until the market tells us otherwise. And that's the whole part, is like you can get there's no absolutes really in markets. It's just everything is just probability and risk. But as of now, this cycle is basically so far a fractal as to what has previously happened in an earlier cycle. Except it's longer too. Like even the 1, 2, and the 3 wave is taking longer to play out relative to the 2013 cycle. So there is kind of this like stretching effect on the price charts to actually make the moves play out. It's taking longer, and then the way it's like attacking the price chart is not as steep as the earlier cycles, which would kind of go in line with just the market's going to take more energy to lift the prices up to higher levels.
Yeah. So no, I like that analysis. So you're saying we could be in this could be Bitcoin's wave 3. It might continue, or this might be the beginning of a wave 4 correction before our final peak for the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I think. And the 5 wave could play out. It could even go into 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Like the market cycle doesn't necessarily have to end at the end of this year. It's a little bit, because right now the 2 main factors, at least on the market right now, is there's a declining Bitcoin dominance, and then a surge of money flowing into the altcoin market. So there could be basically a change of tide at some point where Bitcoin takes control of the market again. It is likely to play out at some point, but we're basically not gonna know like until really hindsight. But the only thing we do know right now is the market around everything outside of Bitcoin is basically starting to heat up, and we could actually enter a pretty crazy May and June, specifically in the altcoin market, so long as Ethereum remains healthy and remains strong, leading the market. So I would say right now Bitcoin is kind of it's stalled out right now, and then we're just waiting to see what it does. But what a lot of people don't really understand is the move could take, I mean, it could in theory stall out for 2 months, or it could not. Like that's the whole thing. Like it takes time to kind of build up before leading into like the next move. So right now, as Bitcoin is stalled out, I would say probably the main price chart I'm kind of keeping an eye on right now is Ethereum, because of how it's at least leading the market going into the summer so far.
Got it. So obviously anything can happen, up, down, or sideways, pretty much. So yeah, let's get into Ethereum in a second. I did want to pick your brain though a little bit on what do you think of the fact that we haven't tested the 20-week moving average on Bitcoin since 10K, and how close we are to it now? Do you think, because I know you said it looks similar to kind of the a previous cycle, but not necessarily the 2017 cycle. You said it resembled which one more, the first or the second impulse?
I would say the current cycle resembles more that second cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in terms of I guess in terms of testing the 20-week moving average. So the other thing that's kind of underrated, and there's already data that showed, like, there's already kind of an analyst in the space. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Ben Cohen, and then the data that like he has in the market. But his data is already showing like reducing volatility, right. And that tends to that's kind of like a natural effect of markets as they basically move, as they march on. So to me, it just means the volatility is not as extreme, at least on the Bitcoin price chart. And so far, the 20-week moving average, I think it's around like $45,000 right now. Right. So it's not that much, like the current price really isn't that much higher than the 20-week moving average. So I think at some point it is going to retest it during the bull market. It's just, we'll have to wait and see whether it holds it as support during a bull market, or whether there's going to be a bear cycle where it dipped under. Because you even see the 1 and 2 wave. If you look back at the 2013 cycle, it looks like, at least on the price chart, it held it as support during the 1 and 2 wave, and then during the 4 wave, it briefly dipped under. But if you even look at this cycle, the entire second wave of the cycle, Bitcoin dropped under the 20-week moving average. Like, it dropped under it like pretty extreme. I mean, that was a pretty hardcore. That was basically as extreme of a shakeout you could get really on a price chart. So holding the 20-week moving average is more, it just basically gives confidence that the rest of the market can still expand. But the moment the 20-week moving average breaks down, that's where you're going to have you're going to basically have capitulation across the entire market. But it still does not mean that the cycle is over. But you are going to enter like a pretty gnarly period of that you just have to be basically mentally accept as like it's a very real possibility. It's and that's just kind of that's kind of why very few people make it through these entire cycles, because of how extreme even like the sub cycles are during a bear market, or during a bull market.
Right. No, I definitely agree with pretty much everything you're saying. How 20-week moving averages. So you're saying it is significant to some degree, right? That if we hold it, it's generally bullish. If we break it, it's generally bearish.
Absolutely. Like, because the 20-week moving average, if at least for anybody that's putting in like a lot of money in the space, like the 20-week moving average is a pretty it's basically I would call it the line or the moving average of confidence. And once the 20-week moving average breaks down, confidence is basically lost across like the entire market. So you would definitely see like the Ethereum price chart everything market wide would likely get hit pretty hard in that scenario. But we still haven't actually seen that play out yet during the bull market. Right now, everybody, or I shouldn't say really everybody, but if you are speculating, at some point we are going to see that bear trends during this cycle. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of like the bull market or anything like that. Because like even on the Ethereum price chart, like if you look at the whole first cycle on Ethereum, similarly, it has a lot of volatility in each of the impulse waves. And we kind of saw like a taste of that, at least during the 1 and 2 wave during the bear market, where it went from like $80 up to I think it briefly went above 300 and then back down to like $100 or something like that. But now we're in full on expansion. I would say we're somewhere similarly on the Ethereum chart. I would say it's somewhere in the 3 wave. And I do think this summer it's going to have its blow off top in the summer. Maybe it's at 3,500, maybe it's at 4,000. You're going to have kind of a lot of guesstimates as to what the price can do. But ultimately, like at that point, it's just kind of everybody's throwing a dart, and then somebody is going to happen to throw the right dart as far as like the price levels it can reach. But it can go much higher than a lot of people expect in the summer. Like I wouldn't even be surprised if Ethereum hit like a $5,000 to $6,000 price target going into the summer, and then that possibly being a like a local top in its within its entire bull market cycle.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people wouldn't mind seeing a $5,000 Ether. So let's thanks for that analysis. So you think we're in wave potentially 3 on Ethereum, on Bitcoin, and let's go ahead, because a lot of people are probably wanting to talk about HEX and Pulse and all that. I don't want to mislead them because I know the title is that as well. So let's go ahead and look at the HEX chart, and then we can talk a little bit of Pulse speculation if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yeah, so I would say similarly, like on the HEX price chart, it looks like it's had like a really big 1 and 2 wave on the price chart.
All right, let's
and then to me,
let's define these a little better. So where do you think the 1 and 2 waves are exactly?
I would say the peak of the 1 wave was at the local top around that might be around 30% of a, yeah, right around there. I would say that was the
daily chart. Okay, so where does this cycle begin? Right here? Is this what you're saying? This is our 1 wave?
So there's really 2. Yeah, that's one of the ideas. Like one of the ideas is that that was like the 1 and 2 wave, and then the 3 was the local top around. I'm not sure what price level that was on the chart. It's basically where it peaked out around May of 2020. So that, and then the other theory was, which that's the one I'm kind of leaning towards, is the 1 and 2 wave was the peak of the 1 wave being the local peak in May of 2020, and then the 3 wave being what is currently playing out on the price chart as a potential 3 wave.
So something like this, you're saying, where we could be in a macro 3 wave?
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards, and then it's basically that idea versus that other one you mentioned, where the 1 and 2 wave, the 1, 2, and the 3 wave happens up to May of 2020, and it's currently in the 5 wave. But I personally am leaning towards it being in a 3 wave because I'm speculating that Ethereum is gonna have a longer cycle as well as Bitcoin. So I think generally the waves in the market are kind of going to overlap with each other and set up for prices higher than what a lot of people are anticipating. I mean, I mean, obviously, like all of this, like everybody should have their own plan in minds going through the market cycle. Like, you know, at the end of the day, we're not going to know who's right and who's wrong until the cycle's over. Because the big thing for me is I just basically look at what could realistically play out. And so far the price chart on HEX to me seems like it's had its 1 and 2 wave, and it's still in the early stages of the 3 wave, is what I'm personally speculating on. But I could be, we won't know until I would say probably by the end of this year, we'll know like which of the Elliott wave theories is right. I don't recall who posted the one on the price already doing the 3 wave. I remember seeing it. I remember seeing that idea probably about like 6 to 7 months ago, but I don't recall who did the TA on that one.
Nice. So you guys heard it here first, or maybe not first, but you heard it here. LookIntoCrypto thinks we're in our 3 wave on HEX potentially, but do your own diligence and figure out what your plan is, right? Don't just do what someone else is doing, because you don't know everything that went into their analysis, right? Like, so, okay, cool. Is there any other charts you find maybe significant, like maybe something you haven't shared, like HEX ETH chart looks good, maybe something you see there, HEX Bitcoin? I heard that you have a special chart you've never shared called the golden chart. So I do want to hear just at least a teaser or a hint as to what that is. And obviously you don't have to share it on this chart. I think you wanted to get to like 1,000 subs first. So you guys go subscribe to him, go subscribe to Look Into Crypto. But yeah, just some insights on what charts maybe you have up your sleeve that, again, you don't have to share them, but just kind of guide us in the right direction.
Yeah. So, well, for the first thing I would say, even if, like when it comes to the price charts on HEX, I would say since the community is so intertwined, like on Twitter, any information that, is basically posted on Twitter, the whole community is for sure 100% going to see it, because of how active the community is on Twitter. So, I have an idea in mind as to what could play out during this bull market cycle, but I'm not going to share it specifically because I know there's going to be people that try to counterplay the price charts. Because at the end of the day, like these bull market cycles, it's a compilation of like a lot of ideas. So for one person that has one idea, somebody else is going to try to counter it, which could end up changing the way like the structure plays out on the HEX price chart. So you'll have to ask basically Motley at the end of the cycle regarding the golden chart and whether it played out, because I think the idea is there, but to me it's like a disadvantage to even post it on Twitter, because it's an extra input that the market can basically like react against. So yeah, I'm gonna kind of let it be and just see whether it actually plays out, and then Motley will be the verdict on that one. But he's not gonna share it either. And then we'll see basically how it plays out. But I guess it still kind of coincides with the idea to give some hints to it. Like it still kind of coincides with the idea that I'm still speculating that the price chart is in the 3-wave, and that's what the kind of the assumption is, at least when referring to like the golden chart. And all it really is, like, none of it's like super complicated. I'm not doing like crazy math or anything like that. I'm just looking at patterns that have played out in this market, and these patterns tend to rhyme from cycle to cycle. So from my viewpoint, even on the golden chart, it's absolutely possible within the bull market cycle, because this is crypto and the market does tend to overextend much more than people expect. It's like even on Ethereum now, like there a lot of people capitulated on Ethereum when it hit like a local bottom on the ETH to Bitcoin pair around like 0.03 or something like that. There's influencers on YouTube that basically capitulated, and since then it's up over 70% versus Bitcoin. So I think the name of the game with this kind of stuff is like you basically have to have your plan and then tune out whatever emotions people are projecting on Twitter, because honestly people's feelings on like prices and things like that, like none of that stuff matters. Like at the end of the day, there's people that much bigger than us that have lots of economic mass that are going to drive what the price charts end up doing. So and we're seeing that right now on Ethereum. Like it's having a really good run right now. So a lot of this is like you have to basically wait for the market to come to you and just be ready when it does. So, you know, even though there's a lot of people that were shit posting Ethereum for 2 months before it's really big move, or a month before it's really big move, that's not something that drove me to sell out of my Ethereum position. Like, and because of that, like the market is now chasing and reacting when it's already too late. They're probably gonna buy back. What most people do in the market is they're gonna end up buying like the local top on like Ethereum or whatever, and then the coins that they were holding are then going to start to move. Right. So once you get into like that habit, it's really extreme. But for the specific pairings on HEX, I would say the HEX to Bitcoin pair to me looks more interesting, because that's starting to build up. It looks like it's starting to build up support on some of the moving averages. So this pair to me looks pretty good. The HEX to ETH pair I think that one's going to be a lot harder to predict what's possible on the HEX to ETH pair, because right now Ethereum is expanding to higher price levels. So
True.
I think I think it's a lot more difficult, in my opinion, to predict like what's going to happen on the HEX to ETH pair, because ETH might do some pretty incredible things during this, during this market cycle. But I think if trying to basically analyze, I would say HEX to Bitcoin to me looks more interesting with the way it's building up on the moving averages. It's really hard. Like the local, when you're comparing the price charts to pairs like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're much less predictable, in my opinion. Like I think really the best reference point is going to be the USD pair. But then the charts relative to pairs like Bitcoin and Ethereum are they're much more chaotic, basically. And this basically goes market wide with even like a lot of DeFi coins in the space. Like a lot of the DeFi coins right now are having trouble basically versus ETH as ETH is going up. But some of them basically look pretty good on like the Bitcoin price charts. So it's kind of it's really hard to basically kind of map it over, because in terms of like things like Elliott waves and things like that, you don't really get that kind of stuff. But I would say your idea in terms of like relative overvaluation, in my opinion, is a good one. I know there was a video you posted on that regarding like potential overvaluation zones. And I think that's what people are going to look at later on if it gets back up to like those higher price levels, like versus Bitcoin or even versus Ethereum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we've seen obviously here on this Bitcoin chart overvaluation to the point of like 100 plus sats, right? So you're saying that, or even the ETH chart where I think it reached like 35,000 Gwei. So you're like looking at 3x away on the Bitcoin chart, about 5x away on the Ether chart. So you think people are going to look at those kind of valuations over time?
Yeah, I would say basically for anybody that's specifically trying to like, because there's going to be people that come in that just try to trade the pairs relative to Bitcoin and Ethereum, where their intention is to try to like get more sats or something like that, and they're just going to go off of like what previously happens. In theory, like things could go like much higher, like you saw it on even Doge to Bitcoin recently, as ridiculous as it is. It set some pretty ridiculous levels on the Bitcoin price chart. So, but as a reference point, like it's still, I would still say like the time, there's not really much data on the price chart if you look at HEX relative to Bitcoin, because a lot of the price history occurred in a time where there was the adoption amplifier. So there's a lot of things today that don't fundamentally apply to like what previously happened. So that could play out, that could even play out more favorably in the future, because there's not really as much supply getting introduced, things like that. So from that standpoint, like you kind of also have to assume that the structure on that could change as a result, because there's like a pretty big fundamental shift there that should theoretically play out at some later point in time on the price chart.
Good point, because we were in hyperinflation during the first year and now we're not. So when you say things should be different, I'm assuming that's in a positive way, just because we have higher stock to flow, less inflation.
Yeah, exactly. Like the 1 and 2 wave, that was during the adoption amplifier phase. So there was just more supply that was getting introduced at the time, whereas now like the only supply that's coming in is from the stakes. So there's just less supply this time around that could really lend itself to higher price appreciation later. No guarantees. Like I don't know what it's ultimately going to do like on either of the price charts. Again, I basically hold positions in Bitcoin, Ethereum. I have staked HEX out. Like I think my average is probably over 6 years on that. And then a lot of that, the intention of that is basically to let like the market's going to ultimately fight over what's going to happen, but the timeline on mine is so far out, it doesn't really matter what happens on like shorter term moves.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, depending on your investment horizon, obviously short-term moves make no difference to your stack and your paper wealth. But I think it's fun to just kind of speculate a little bit. But I did want to kind of pop quiz you though. If I'm going to point out some candles here on the chart, and I want to see if you can recognize. I'm sure you'll be able to guess, but I want to see if you can recognize what kind of candles these are and what their significance is. So I believe it's these two candles on the weekly and this one that we're in now, which is why I'm pointing this out, is because we just formed one of these. And yeah, let me know if you see what's in what they have in common. If not, I'll just tell you.
Yeah. I don't know if this is it, but the pattern to me, it basically just looks like it almost looks like a hammer on the price chart. I don't know if that's what it is, but
sort of.
Anytime I see like a big wick on the price chart, it's usually generally very bullish. But if there's like I know there's like different terms where it's like engulfing or something. Engulfing.
That's the one. Bullish engulfing, right? Where the bottom and the low. So the low and the high of I said bottom and low. So the low and the high of the candle completely engulf the prices of the previous one. So yeah, we saw that before this 50x over here. We saw it before this 7x over here. So, you know, you can extrapolate a pattern. Obviously, just 2 data points, so you can't really get a pattern because maybe it's 57, and then what if you divide by 7? That's just 1x, so nothing happens. So it's probably not that, but maybe it's like an average where the average of 50 and 7 is like 30, so maybe a 30x. Super uncertain and just pure speculation, but I think it's cool that we have a bullish engulfing, and we've only ever had a few of them, which is why I'm pointing it out. And mind you, this is near an all-time high, so I don't know if we've ever had, like, this one right here was at least almost a 2x away from all-time high. This bullish engulfing candle was, again, almost like a 2x away from all-time highs, and this one is just like right on it. So I don't know if that holds any significance for the trade, maybe the traders in the chat. Obviously, like, some people will try to trade regardless of what we tell them. But yeah, I love this candle right now, and it's gonna close in like what, 3 hours. So yeah.
I would say it looks really good. That's really an interesting take on it, because you're right. Like, if you even compare the current candle it's at now, when you see those, you're basically spotting a potential like trend change, right, where you start to resume back on like a dominant trend. So because overall, if you even measure from where the local bottom was after big payday, and then even up to its current move, I think it's up somewhere around I think it's somewhere over four, I would say basically 4x. It's hard for me to see 10x. On the it's almost up 10x now. Okay.
Yeah, because the local bottom was, remember, it was around like a fifth of a penny, and now we're almost at 2 pennies. So
okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. I was off by, that makes sense. I was off by a decimal point there. I was thinking point yeah. So that's even so far, like, the price chart looks really good. Like the weekly time frames look good. The monthly time frames look really good. Oh, yeah. That's another interesting one, is the monthly chart it's starting to, there's still that last wick up. I think up to is that up to like 2.5 cents? Okay. And there's still basically that last wick up, but the monthly chart looks really good.
Yeah, I wanted to point something out, because this kind of threw me off, right? Like, generally big wicks to the upside are bearish, but I've noticed here on the monthly that HEX doesn't seem to care. Like right here, February 1st, most people would look at this candle and be like, yo, dump incoming. Or even this one right here, February 1st. This looks like one of the most bearish candles you could imagine. I mean, let me know what you think, but tiny body and then a huge wick to the upside, like 100% wick. Yet every single time we've had these, it seems to do the complete opposite of what you'd expect. So that's just like, I don't know, interesting, if you want to talk on that a little.
Yeah, it's because if you look at the one after, I'm trying to recall on the price chart, which one is the red candle from big payday?
Oh, November. This
Just
one.
So I know. Yeah. This one there. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So the wicks on the price chart, it's to be honest, I kind of don't pay too much attention to like the wicks on the price chart, because a lot of the short-term price movements are, I think it's way more chaotic and indeterministic on short-term price movements, where a lot of ideas like tend to break down on like the shorter time frames. But even with something like a wick, you could end up in a scenario where you have like a really bullish month, and then the last week of the month the price gets like dumped down or something like that, and then it looks really bearish leading into the next month. So I think it's much harder to see how it.
That's a good point.
An individual candle to me doesn't really tell the story. I think you need more data points to really see like where the trend is really going, in my opinion. But I would say that for short-term data points, that might be something that's more useful to people that are looking to like add a position after they see like a possible trend change on the chart. Then it could be more useful for them for those types of people in the market, which is a lot. Like there's a lot of people, even all of TradingView, none of the people on there really holds coins. They just try to basically ride momentum, which generally you don't make as much money doing that, but there's going to always be those kinds of people in the market that just basically want to play with momentum, and then exit sooner.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can understand and see why it's tempting to do something like that, just because obviously Hex did something like like 400x. But if you get cheeky and start looking at, well, hey, what if I'd exited the market on key reversals, and you actually just take into account how much you'd be in the profit if you'd say, exited at the perfect times, then here you have an 8x, a 50x, 7x. So you're already looking at like what, 3000x almost, and then another 10x. So you could be up 30,000x if you had timed it like damn near perfectly, as compared to 400x. So I can see why it's tempting to try to, catch certain trend reversals, although it's just as dangerous because you might have missed out on the 400x of just holding, right? Because you timed it wrong. And so you have this high risk, high reward scenario. But I like that you pointed out that wicks aren't that predictive, I guess, not significant as much. So if you look at a line chart, right, that completely gets rid of wicks. And also the whole thing on the monthly you were talking about, that's a really good point, that the monthly chart, these wicks to the upside really only talk about what could have happened maybe at the end of the month, like you were saying, which is like, well, what real significance does the first or the 31st of any month have, right? The first of any month. Because if you were to offset the monthly chart to look at, close at the second or the third or the 15th day of any month, it'd obviously be generally the same chart, but the wicks would be in completely different spots. So I guess you're right in the sense that it makes more sense to look at wickless charts, line charts, and not really get carried away in the day-to-day volatility, which is absolutely just unpredictable.
Yeah, and the day-to-day volatility, even week to week, it's gonna be really extreme on like on the HEX price, for example, because if you look at the size of like the HEX to ETH pool, I think it's around like 600 ETH in the pool.
I think it's less.
So that even if it's even less than that, there's a lot of there's like a lot of volatility you're gonna get on smaller time frames. That's why I just look at if I look at even the HEX price chart, I just go to the weekly, because you're gonna there's basically even on Ethereum there's all kinds of like arbitrage bots. There's literally bots that pick up coins they're just set up programmatically to sell after certain targets are reached, and you're going to see a lot of that volatility on something like HEX, where big buys are going to move the price a lot, and then sells, like even if somebody sells for example like 1 to 2 million HEX, like you'll actually see that kind of move on the price chart, which is pretty amazing. Because like right now, if somebody buys 1 million HEX, that's around I think that's around like 20,000 USD or something like that. So if somebody then multiplies that by 4, like you can get these really big candles with a much smaller HEX to ETH pool. So it does lend itself to higher price discovery later on, because that's kind of like the trade-off is you'll get shorter term volatility, but theoretically it does also lend itself to much higher price appreciation later, because it doesn't take as much buying pressure to push the price up.
Yeah, I mean, there are only 568 ETH in the pool, so even just a million HEX buy will push the price. I did the math around like 1.5%, and if you string together, like you said, 4 of those, then you're looking at, you're really moving the market with just a 5-figure buy, which usually in other markets like Bitcoin, Ethereum, you need $1 million buys, 6, 7, 8, 9-figure buys to actually move price. So yeah, this is definitely a very illiquid market. Here, so we've been live for about an hour. I want to transition into some of the hype around Pulse a little bit, because give the people what they want, and kind of just read a little bit of the chat, because a lot of them are talking about Pulse. But yeah, let's read some of these comments that I've just been ignoring for the past hour. I'm about 50 minutes behind on the chat. So we have Hex Selling saying, what are your thoughts on the timing of the snapshot and in relation the game theory that it'll bring? I'm guessing that's what his comment says.
Yeah, so it seems like the timing of it looks like, from what I've seen, it looks like it's going to get rolled out. I mean, do not take this as absolute source of truth. I am speculating,
of course,
but it does look like it's going to come much sooner than originally anticipated, and a lot of that could just be due to being able to inherit a lot of the tools that Ethereum already has. So maybe it was much easier than originally anticipated. But in terms of the game theory, it's not quite the same thing as like HEX, for example, because
completely different.
Depending on what you sacrifice, there could be a very big delta on like day one versus day, because the whole thing is like the way the game theory is now is like kind of time is against your side from that standpoint, but it's really hard to say specifically what, if you're trying to get the best buy in the sacrifice chamber, it's going to be hard, because if you're holding a coin that's going up a lot in value, and then you weigh that versus like how much more it'll cost like in day 2 versus day 3 and so on. There's a lot of things that can happen in the market where if you're basically gonna do it, shit, because I kind of don't want to give away too much, because I want the best. I want to be completely honest, like I want the best possible positioning to you going into PulseChain. So I'm just trying to think of how much speculation that, or at least what I'm speculating on, because I don't, the different speculations people have, the better potentially it could play out. Or I don't know, maybe my timing is off, but I'm actually going to kind of keep it at that, and then not give too much information there. But I will say, like, I've already, my plan is I'm probably going to do like a smaller percent of the stack that I have, and then speculate on that, because I do have, because my original plan, like I had HEX stakes that were coming out basically periodically. Like even though my average is like 6 years, I do have some amounts that are coming out over this year, and my original plan was I was going to restake those, but I'm likely going to take those and then throw them into the sacrifice chamber, and then see how that plays out. Because overall, I still have like the majority of my HEX position, and then I think this is one of those plays, like if it ends up working out nicely, you can get pretty far with even something like 2 to 3% of like your overall stack could go a very long way. I personally, I'm not going to throw all my, which I can't even do that because most of it's staked, but I will not be, in theory, if I had, I'm not going to throw all my, I'm going to throw basically an allocation of it, and then just kind of understand like there's a potential asymmetric play that could work out in the favor where, again, smaller percentages could go pretty far, go a long way. Yeah, I personally would not, like, if it's one of those things where you could theoretically, like, you could go all into the play, but that's ultimately, you know, whoever does that, it could be a big win. But at the same time, like, I do want to hold the majority of my HEX position and then allocate a percent of that into like the sacrifice chamber, which actually lends itself to you're kind of doing like a pro positive for your HEX bags anyway if you're doing that. So to me, it seems like a pretty reasonable one to kind of speculate on, because it kind of helps you out in a way, ironically, later on the price chart. Or not even ironic. I think that was actually kind of the whole thing. It's a potential supply sink that could lead to some further price discovery through the bull market.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. That kind of wraps back around to your point when you say that you don't want to share too much of your plan, kind of the game theory you figured out and how to traverse it. Just again, back to that point you said of the golden chart, right? You don't want to share too much because that affects how other people react to the market given the new data, and they might try to front run you or counterplay you or something like that. So I agree that if it's probably in each person's best interest not to publicly disclose too much of what they're going to do. So I definitely understand and respect that you're doing that. So the sacrifice chamber, right? It's going to be able to take in a list of different coins. What I'm curious about is, because obviously a lot of the HEX community knows about Pulse, and people in other communities might not know as much, in relative percentage terms. So we will have, people sacrificing their HEX, and then we're assuming that wherever the sacrifice address goes to is going to be some sort of benevolent whale that doesn't dump down the price of the HEX, but rather it's diamond hands, right? But what I'm curious about is, given the fact that we're going to be able to sacrifice all sorts of coins, what is it going to do with, say, the uni people sacrifice? Is it going to be a benevolent whale for all of these coins and just help support price performance in all of them? Because that would be, I don't know, it's just a general place of speculation that I think can, assuming the whale is benevolent to all these projects, then this could be good for all of crypto. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. Because my take on it, at least from what it sounded like, to me it sounded like the whole point was to act as like a supply sink of anything, let's say, that constitutes its value. So in theory, like anything that gets thrown at it, if the coins just end up in that address for a long period of time, those are effectively not being sold on the market. Right. So I would say that's true for a lot of coins. Potentially it could actually end up being beneficial for a lot of things, depending on how much ends up being sacrificed. Like I think in the grand scheme of things, since there's so many coins in the market, the amount relative to like the total supply of everything, I'm guessing is going to be like a small percent. So it's like you're not going to see necessarily Uniswap do like a 10x or something like that because of that, or something like that, because it's all going to be relative to like the total supply and how much of an impact it can do. Personally, I think it has a much bigger effect on something. It could actually have a much bigger effect on something like HEX or something, because there's less supply on the market to begin with. Whereas other coins, like you kind of have to look at how much actually exists in the market, which you can do with a lot of stuff on Etherscan. You can probably look at what the uni to ETH pool is, things like that. So that's kind of what I'm speculating on, is since just the relative size of the pool, things that are less liquid are going to they'd be more favorable, like in some kind of supply sink.
Definitely. Okay, so here we have another question, which I was actually going to ask you. This guy, 432 cycles per second, is saying all liquidity will be copied over, right? and the tokens will start at 0. That's what I'm having a little bit of trouble understanding is since we're copying the entire system state, all liquidity pools on Uniswap should be on the PulseChain as well, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So, at least from what I gather, it sounds like the whole system state's going to get copied over. But what's not really clear to me yet, and this is ultimately for the market to figure out, is like what kind of value you would see on other ERC coins. Like personally, I'm just going to tell you right now, like if you're speculating on ERC20 coins, the ones I would mostly just focus on are you have HEX ETH, HEX Pulse, and then Pulse token. But there's going to be a lot of ERC tokens, like where the market's going to have to it's going to have to determine like what the value of those other ERC tokens are. So I don't think we're really going to know. We can really answer that question until it plays out. Personally, like all things, I think the native assets like HEX ETH, HEX Pulse, and Pulse token, I view those as the native assets. And personally, I think everything else like on the chain relative to the native assets are going to bleed out is what I think. And that's just true for like a lot of things. Like you look at, that's why I stick to like what the native assets are. I am not going to speculate on any PRC coins unless it's specifically HEX, which is the main intended. It's like the main one that's, in my viewpoint, that is going to be used more as like a store of value. Whereas other things you could potentially, if you end up getting a snapshot of like ERC tokens into PRC tokens, that's like some other coin. I think there's like more of an unknown on that versus something versus HEX specifically, which is the main thing. Because the whole thing is now people are going to be able to stake coins at much. The fees are going to be lower, so the fees to use Pulse Uniswap or whatever the DEX is going to be lower. Staking coins is going to be lower. Minting coins is going to be lower. So I'm kind of speculating it's going to be more. You're going to see more of a push to use it as like a side chain to Ethereum for staking, and then I think everything else, like because the DeFi space on Ethereum is very there's a lot of value that's on Ethereum. That's truth. It's going to remain. Like for example, if you look at something like synthetics, and I'm not even shilling synthetics or anything like that, but something like that, the value of that token is likely to remain on Ethereum. But then something like HEX that is specifically for the staking, it's very different from coin to coin. So my strategy, I'm just going to have the native assets and stick to those. And then I'll let the market ultimately speculate on other coins. And then, but I'm sticking to the native assets because I know statistically those are going to have like, they're in a much better position from my viewpoint. It's kind of like the same thing when you look at, you look at like Bitcoin Cash, even something like Litecoin, where Bitcoin I consider like a native asset in a way to like some of those other chains. But in the case for HEX, I would stick to the main coins, and then Pulse token would be my recommendation. So if you get a good deal on like a snapshot of a PRC coin, I would personally recommend like rolling that into like Pulse token or HEX Pulse or HEX ETH or something like that, or a combination of all three, so that you have the exposure. Because ultimately, it's going to be interesting to see ultimately which side ends up accruing the most value, whether it's like HEX Pulse or HEX ETH, and that's why I'm just going to hold both sides so that I'm covered in any circumstance that the market decides to go.
Nice. So you're taking a safe play. I guess your thesis kind of wrapped up would be, well, Pulse was built with the intention of housing HEX users, and even though it's bringing everyone along for the party, those other tokens are kind of just guests, right? They're not the main event, and so you think that speculation on those might not be as profitable as, say, the native token or PHEX. Or I like that you're calling them PRC20s. I'm not sure if that's a general agreed upon term, but I like it. And I've even seen people just kind of adding a P to other ERC20s. So it's kind of funny because if you add a P to uni, it's pronounced puny. So I don't know if people are going to start coming up with funny names like that, or obviously not shilling, but if you add a P to link, it's plink. So I don't know. There's some humor in this. But yeah, let's continue on with some of these questions. Super behind. Let's see. Make Look Into Crypto say expansion phase. Two of the brightest HEX minds on one stream. What a nice Sunday. Thank you, Vince. Great stream. I request Gerardo be promoted to a knight of the crypto table. So I'm not sure if you have that kind of power, Look Into Crypto, but if I could be promoted to knight, I accept this offer.
Yeah, the way the nice table works is basically each week, it's a rotation of everybody that's streaming. So, if I'm hosting that week, we're able to basically get, I don't really mind like having more people on. But the main thing is like whoever, it's ultimately at the decision of whoever is hosting that week, which I think next week, because I hosted last week, I think the person to ask it would either be, I don't even know who's hosting the next one. I think usually the way it works is Motley's pretty good at tracking like who's hosting. If I had to guess, well, there's only three options it could be. It's either going to be Motley, DC, Motley, Coffee, or Bran, which doesn't really tell much information at all. One of those three guys, I think, is hosting the next one. So
cool. Yeah.
But if I'm hosting, I can definitely have you on stream. No problem.
Very cool. Yeah, I've been planning to do a live stream. I hope to do a live stream each week with different prominent figures. So obviously last week I was on live with Bran. This week I'm on live with you. So I think it'd be cool to. We've had people commenting I should go live with whales only, and I think Coffee also would be a great stream to have. I generally like to have it one-on-one because I feel like you can actually get people's opinions, etc., and not get drowned out in the group. But either way, I think either way would be fun. We have Benny in the chat saying HEX is a violent mongoose. Yeah, I guess. Could other tokens from the sacrifice address be sold for HEX? Yeah, you can dump your URCs for HEX and then sacrifice HEX. Imagine if all here T-shirt master saying, imagine if all the other sacrificed coins, excluding HEX, get used to buy more HEX. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Therefore, drying up supply and pumping the price further up could definitely happen. People are saying they want the golden chart. Well, you're not getting it. I'm sorry. All right, I think we're all caught up in chat. Okay, cool. So that's a nice. We've talked a lot about Pulse. Is there anything else to cover? Let's see. How about the bonding curves? Because I don't know if I fully understand that. The 10,000 to 1 ratio, where that ratio is even applied. Does it have to do with how many Pulse tokens you receive after you sacrifice coins, or like are people just getting 1-to-1 ETH Pulse if they just don't sacrifice at all? Like, do you kind of have an idea of how that works?
I don't know. I don't know the exact like what the rules are to that's like 100%. I just know it has something to do with how much Ethereum, like if you're holding Ethereum, there's certain amount that translates over onto the snapshot. But I'm not sure what the rules are on the conversion and like how much you end up getting out in the end.
Yeah, me neither. I think that data would be very, very to have in coming up with a game plan though. Crypto Event says that humor sounds Hex happy hour worthy. Isn't that what Cabana hosts? Or go ahead.
I believe Crypto Cabana. Yeah, he does. He streams on Fridays. He has some. He has his Cabana Crypto show that he hosts during happy hour. So, worthy. It kind of sounds like Vince is referring to that.
Most likely. Oh, I think we ran into Brand's live stream. Now I feel bad. I think he's been live for like 30, 40 minutes.
Oh, us? It looks like we started streaming. Actually, we've been live for over an hour now. It looks like
nice.
85 minutes ago. So
yeah, I mean, let me know how long you're trying to go. I can obviously stay on longer if you want. But if you're busy, I can obviously end it here. But if you want to, if you have anything else you want to talk about, feel free to bring it up. I know we talked about where we are potentially in the entire crypto cycle. We looked at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Elliot waves. We looked at HEX, potential Elliot waves on there. Talked a little bit game theory with Pulse. Are we missing anything?
I think that I would say that basically that should sum it up. I guess what we could do, since this was our first stream, let's definitely chat a little bit in the green room after the show, and then we can figure out because I definitely want to have basically be on a stream again sometime, so we can figure out like maybe what that could look like. I could host the stream sometime, or if you wanted to host another one, it's not a big deal. And then we could get all that stuff kind of sorted out after the show.
Yeah, sounds good. And you can give me some pointers on how to work all of this live stream software so we can have maybe my face and the chart at the same time. But yeah.
I would say basically the way I would really break it down, this is for a lot of people that are watching. If you want specific data metrics, then definitely check out Gerard's show. There's a lot of good stuff in there. And then it kind of depends on there's a lot of interesting stuff in there that gives you more details. Like it gives you more in-depth information versus like the top level view that just kind of gives you what the general trend looks like. But yeah, definitely check out the videos because they're very good.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm not sure if you're live right now on your channels, but if you guys are watching and on one of my channels, go check out. It's just LookIntoCrypto, right? On YouTube. Yeah,
it's just LookIntoCrypto on YouTube and Twitter. So the YouTube streaming is pretty early. I have some plans for that in going into the summer because I do have a website that's launching this summer, and then it's going to focus. It's going to focus on investing in general, and then there's going to be more information on that soon. But for now, while things are in progress, I'm not giving too many details on that. But for anything HEX, like HEX specific, if you want data insights, definitely check out Gerard's channel because there's a lot of interesting data on there. That's really cool.
Yeah. Thank you. I think one of the favorites is the regression rainbow. Maybe it's because it's colorful or because it's kind of this exponential fit that we've been holding for a minute. But maybe before we hop off, I guess you could call this my golden chart, right? Like what I think is going to play out, what could play out. But I want to get your thoughts on an exponential fit. Do you think we're going to hold this exponential fit? And if so, kind of for how long? What do you think of the recent bounce we had? If you can kind of see it dip beneath it about 5% and then just blast off. Here it is on a log chart. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this before we go.
Yeah. So personally, the looking at it on the linear chart's really interesting. That one above. So the one thing is, I guess with like the linear charts, I do like the look of this because it gives you an idea as to what it would look like on the linear chart if you get these really big price moves. So my take on it, it's, I would say between the two, I definitely have a preference for log charts in general, just because like the way I look at a log chart is like for each band up, it's like, okay, the price has to do a 10x to get to this next band. And like in theory, over time, as you go up the chart of 10x's, so to say, you kind of get this like this logarithmic curve effect like you see on the Bitcoin price chart. But I think this cycle is still very early on HEX, where you won't really, you're not going to really see, in my opinion, that type of logarithmic effect play out after you have like years and years of data points. So even the bands you have on the chart, like it can absolutely hit higher bands like on the logarithmic chart. Like you can definitely hit like the cyan line, you could hit the line above it, and then you'll see like a huge, you would see that you'd see a pretty big because the linear charts like basically kind of they exaggerate basically what the moves, like how many x's, or they tend to exaggerate like how big the move itself is really on like a log chart in terms of the 10x. But you could see a hugely you could see that type of thing kind of like drawn out and almost exaggerated on the linear chart. So I like during a really big expansion, I would personally, this is really cool that you're plotting this, because that's something I'll take a look at, look at the two charts with like a really big impulse wave. It'd be really cool seeing like that type of movement on the chart you have here, and then what it looks like on the linear chart as well, the one above.
Totally.
But don't be surprised if it starts to hit like higher bands. That's pretty much like the main thing is again, the cycle is really early, so kind of where to me it looks like on the price chart between the red and the orange looks like a potential like a potential accumulation zone, and then you could have you can basically have expansion outside of that as it starts to hit higher price bands. And then during the next like corrective wave, it could revisit those lower bands, but it could end up being at much higher prices as a result. Kind of what you saw, like if you look at the price around January 1st of 2020, you can see the price basically went into those lower bands and then expanded up, and then didn't actually revisit those bands again until almost it wasn't really until around December of 2020, or even, and then it kind of right now it looks like it's kind of building up in those lower bands, and then you could have another expansion that starts to make its way up the price chart. The general rule of thumb, like if it takes longer to build up, generally you do get higher price targets, because by the time it starts to move up, all the price bands are also at higher levels as well. So that tends to work out pretty favorable at some point in time.
No, for sure. And I love that you said that, because I pointed that out when I was making these models and presenting them for the first time. The fact that we only have less than 2 years of data. So to think that you'll start seeing diminishing returns and this curve will start bending over already, it might be a bit premature for us to start seeing these diminishing returns. Because if you look at a logarithmic chart or the logarithmic regression on Bitcoin and Ethereum, like we're talking 5 years. Actually, with Ethereum, it's like almost 6 years. For Bitcoin, I think we're coming up on the 13-year mark. 12, 13 years. So that's a lot of data. And that's when you're like, okay, well, these are, $100+ billion markets. Diminishing returns make sense. But for something as illiquid as HEX, like, you know what I mean?
That's a great point. I mean, I think you pretty much hit it hard there. Is like for something as illiquid as HEX, like to me, it could very easily. Why shouldn't maybe? Because like again, well, actually, I'll go back to that. I think it can hit these higher price bands, because again, like as Gerard's saying, if you look at it in terms of almost like rarity, to me, it's not outrageous, because like another even like 1,500 ETH like in the ETH pool, like that's really not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, but it would push the price up on like the HEX price chart a lot relative to that. So Because I'm curious if the pool size increases to, let's say, 1,500 ETH, based on, like, just hypothetically, what kind of price target does that put on the price chart, just off that?
Yeah, so I actually have this this cool kind of liquidity calculator where here, let's take a look at that. So I had to update it now. A hex price is about 2 pennies. What's the liquidity on the ETH pool? It's about 570 ETH, right? So how much is that? 570 times, what's Ethereum right now? Like 2,900?
Yeah, around 2,900.
Okay, for sure. Wait, really? We only have 570 ETH in the pool? 570 times 2,900. Did liquidity go down recently?
I'm not sure. I think it's been slowly trending up, but at a I think a couple of months ago it did. The liquidity was like reduced on it, but I think it's been a little while since then. I just remember the HEX, the ETH pool didn't have very much in it.
All right, let's take a look at this then. Okay, HEX ETH total liquidity. We have, let's just copy paste these. All right, so HEX ETH pair. Oh, okay, no, it went up definitely. I was tripping. HEX USDC total liquidity. Boom. Whoops, it's kind of big. All right, whatever. Let's just leave it like that for now. So you were saying if we input how much?
If we input, hypothetically, let's say there's another 1,000 ETH that's thrown into the liquidity pool.
1,000 ETH. So we're talking $2.9 million.
Yeah, 2.9 million.
All right, let's see. So if we input, let's just round up to 3 million. That would send HEX to 5 pennies.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that would put us at the, if we look at the regression rainbow, where is 5 pennies right now? It is in between the orange and the yellow bands.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, definitely a very illiquid market. Like you said, we were kind of accumulating between the red and orange. I did want to point out also, I don't know if you noticed, but notice we had kind of a local peak around the pink band, and then here, could you call this kind of a local peak around the purple, blue, green, yellow? And then we seem to find these local peaks at lower bands every time. But then recently we had this local peak in the orange zone, and then it came back to the orange zone. So it's like, okay, could this be a trend reversal kind of thing? You see what I'm saying? Where instead of dropping a band every time, it's on the same one.
Yeah, because if you even notice it, it's now hit the red bands. Looks like it's brushed at the red bands. This is now the third touch. Yes. So it looks like it's starting to build up some kind of to me it looks like it's basically building up a floor somewhere on that bands. But that's a really good observation. You're right, because that could potentially indicate like the early stages of what a trend reversal could look like. And then a lot of people get caught up is they try to predict like the exact moment a reversal could occur. This generally with like the mentality with like trading is they try to get in exactly before a reversal occurs, but in practice, like you could still have all these weekly candles before the actual reversal happens. So it's pretty wild just how many people could basically get pulled out of the market off like short-term price moves. Like this is a really good chart I would basically look at for if you want a good sense on the macro trends. This actually gives you very reasonable levels you can retest again at a later point in time. And it's really not that outrageous to even think it can hit, these higher price levels, in my opinion.
Right. I guess the sort of projection I've been putting out in some of these videos where I cover this rainbow is we might not reach the pink band even, but we might reach the purple band just because accumulation here was between orange and yellow. Accumulation over here has been longer, so that kind of talks to lengthening cycles, and right, it kind of dropped a zone, so it might drop a zone. But like you said, it's not outrageous to think we might be hitting even the cyan or the purple, maybe like you were saying this summer, which would be anywhere from 25 to 50 cents. And it starts getting closer to, you know, our 55 cents, which would be 10,000x from the bottom, right? So
yeah, that's a really, I like that. I like the step down idea too, because it kind of takes into account, like, if you do start to see like a curve on a log chart, you do in theory that could actually be a representation of that if you see it to step down like a band over time. And then over enough, like after you have enough data points, you'd kind of see it do like a nice curve over like a period of years. It's just when you look at charts, it, like, even there's certain price charts basically even during their first cycle where they retested and actually blew above higher level bands versus like their first like sub cycle. So I think that question won't really be, it's kind of an unknown until we know we've hit like the next top or going into like the next like bear market or something 100%. Like that. So it'll take the remainder of the cycle to play out, and then you'll actually probably have some like really good data points that you can basically add on to this, and then even have like a curve start to develop over time.
Definitely. And I like that you pointed that out. It's once we see a full market cycle where we can definitively say, okay, this was the peak of this market cycle, this was the bottom of this one, that's when you can really start, I guess, having better models. And like you were saying, you know, this obviously probably won't hold forever. So once we actually start seeing diminishing returns, once we have that data, then we might break it. But you never know. Like we could hold this regression rainbow for a while and then maybe break it sometime. I don't know, out here, let's just say hypothetically speaking, out here, you break beneath it. But at that point, you're already talking dollars, right? So it's like, well, now we can draw a more, instead of an exponential regression on a linear chart, maybe just a linear regression on a linear chart, which on a log chart is a logarithmic regression, and you start seeing it bend over here, and it essentially breaks out of this rainbow. But then we have, you know, maybe something more predictive that we can use for not the next 1 or 2 years, but maybe rather the entire next market cycle, which can last anywhere from, you know, 3, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, so absolutely, and I agree with that. At some point, it is gonna break out of the or fall out of this uptrend channel, because you can't, like, in markets you can't really maintain like a linear trends over time, because it just requires so much energy to stay within that. But yeah, it'll, as Gerard was saying, you'll get a much better idea as to where it's starting to fall out of the bands at some later point in time. And that's also the thing with like when it comes to like the market on HEX, or really the crypto market in general, is like, as more and more people become familiar with this data, and this goes across like the entire market, the market starts to get, in a sense, smarter around that. So they may start to take profits. They could take profits earlier. It's kind of the whole thing where a lot of even the logarithmic regression information that Ben really kind of brought to mainstream crypto over this market cycle, as more people start to apply like those data models to other coins, the market also is going to kind of prepare and react to that as well, and start to use models like that as like a source of truth as to when is like a logical time to buy, things like that. Because but we're still very early right now as to what it could be. Like another year before it theoretically like falls out of the channel or something like that. Because yeah, because it could end up somewhere at a higher band at some later point in time, and then you enter a bear market, and then that bear market could at some point be like the exit into the band, and then you have the whole diminishing returns thing start to kind of solidify before going into like the next market cycle.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Couldn't have said it better. And I even mentioned in some prior videos, like, at some point it might be a good idea to even add a lower band here, just because like we saw here, accumulation between red and yellow. Here we have accumulation between red and orange. And so in the future, maybe once we do break out of this uptrend, then if we add a lower band, maybe color it, black or gray or something, then we might see accumulation between that band and the red one, which would be interesting to see. Definitely. Like if we had a blow off top and then came back down and had reaccumulation between some lower band and this one, then that might be indicative of even a longer reaccumulation that takes, like this first one took 100 days. The second one, it's so far, what is it, November 27th to now? So let's see, December, like 6 months, about 200 days. So maybe the next one is like a whole year between the red band and some lower band that we might add to this. You said you were, by the way, just kind of another side note, you said you were working on a website, which is cool. I reached out to the community a little bit. I think we might have talked about it, about maybe building a site for this chart. Do you think it'd be easy? If so, like, do you have any recommendations on, because I've heard things like Plotly are good. I've gotten some other recommendations, but just a simple website where someone can, hover above this and see where these are on any given day.
Yeah, I think the recommendation with Plotly is probably a good one. There's a lot you could do with that. So that would actually be really cool to see. If there's actually something because there's a domain that I have that you might be interested in, because I'm not gonna it's a domain that I grabbed a while ago, but I'll talk to you in the green room about it, because the stuff that you're doing would actually possibly be a really good fit for that domain later on. Because like the whole thing is like, personally, like my thing is in terms of the trends, like I just look at what the macro trends are and prepare before that stuff plays out. So that's something later on. It's another tool. It's basically a tool that I would use in like the next bear market, basically. And then kind of similar, like I go for like the macro trends, but basically the data inputs, like something like this, is actually very useful to kind of build out those ideas. So, but yeah, I'll give you details on that after the stream. It's one that the domain might interest you because it has like HEX in the name. So nice. It's something I grabbed a while ago, and then I was planning, I was like, if anybody in the community wants the domain, it's basically up for grabs. So I think you'd probably be a good person to like have something like that, because then it'll actually end up getting and possibly end up getting used and then built on, which is really cool.
Right on. Yeah, I'll definitely we'll definitely chat a little bit more about that in the green room. I had a domain name idea in mind, which I looked up and it's still available. But if yours is a better fit, then definitely I would be interested in that. Yeah, the one I found it's kind of cool. I'm kind of surprised that no one else grabbed it yet. Last I checked, it was still available like a week ago. But yeah. Just
if it's still available, I would just not publicly mention it like on stream, because somebody will definitely snipe it or at risk of sniping it if you do plan on grabbing it.
No, definitely. I should have grabbed it when I saw it. I will though. If it's not taken, or if if the one you have is better, then I might just stick with that one. But yeah, we've been live almost 2 hours. Do you want to try to hit the 2 hour mark, or do you want to try to end it sooner?
I think we could do is I think we could probably end it here and then kind of plan out like the next time we want to do a stream, because I definitely want to go have a chance to kind of go even into the meat with all the data that you have, and then maybe even just have like a stream focused on that, and then people can also view it as a reference point later on when they're analyzing the price chart for HEX.
It's a great idea. That is a great idea, to dive more into like all of the models. Kind of, I've separated into different videos, and maybe have a nice comprehensive live stream with you, maybe some other guys, and discuss a lot of them, and maybe even go for 4, 5, 6 hours, like I know some of you guys do. So yeah, definitely a again, thanks for coming on, man. I really do appreciate your time, and I'll add all your links in the description once this is uploaded. We'll chat a little more in the green room about some of the things we talked about. And yeah, man, go ahead and shill your stuff if you want.
Sure. Yeah. So you could follow me on Twitter, YouTube, LookIntoCrypto. Yeah, you'll find me mostly on Twitter, but I will start being a little more active on YouTube starting this month. So that'll be a good place to kind of see some of my ideas across basically the crypto market.
I think people really like that. You have a very analytical mind, so I think people generally appreciate that in markets where there's a lot of emotion and FOMO and all of that. And it seems that you just kind of stay chill and, you know, analyze stuff as they are. So that's really cool. But yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, that'll be in the description, because if I pronounce it, you won't know how to spell it. So just click the links. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in a future stream, potentially with Knights of the Round Table, I think is what it's called. Might be planning some more streams for every Sunday to come. I think it's a good day to stream. And yeah, unless you have any final notes, we'll end the stream here and chat a little bit more in the green room.
Yeah, that should do it. Yeah, thanks for everybody for joining, and yeah, we'll definitely see you guys soon.
Alrighty, awesome. All right, see you.